welcome to the Marketing for Business podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Mate, I'm excited for this chat. Two marketers with a bit of experience under their belt having a bit of a chat, right? I think it's going to be a good one. There's going to be lots of gold in here for business owners. Look, we've caught up a number of times over the years. We've done some work on some different projects, and I thought, when I was thinking about people to interview, like who really gets digital? You're one of the people that gets digital. You're one of the people that really understands marketing. You're one of the real, I guess, one of the first people that really got into web design and really, I guess, made it. One other cool thing I love about you and what you're doing with your team at Meta Digital is you really care. And I think in a world we're in at the moment, we need more people that care. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Man,
this is exciting.
Mate, where did it all start for you?
Well, we're entering our 24th year.
How good.
Year.
24 years in business.
I know.
That's pretty cool. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions on how to get to that, because I think we're coming up to, well, my second business now, but yeah, we're probably in that 9-year period for this business. So 24 years, man, what have you learned?
There's so much. There's so much.
Where did it start, though? Where did it start? Like,
All
how
right.
did you,
Yep.
you know?
It started, I got made redundant during the dot bomb.
Oh, really?
And so I was out there on the streets looking for opportunities and I figured I'd do a little bit of freelancing while I was waiting for a real job to turn up.
What were you doing, though?
At that point, I was a web designer.
Okay.
So
Yep.
graphic, coding,
Yep.
HTML,
Oh, wow.
real old school.
Yeah, real old school. Were you using like Dreamweaver? And,
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
Yeah. So really old school. Before that, we didn't even have Dreamweaver. That was cool.
Yeah, you use coding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd been obviously working as a designer
Yep.
in various places before that. So yeah, here I was freelancing, and I managed to pick up one or two really good clients, and I needed to send an invoice, and it was an enterprise/corporate client, and they needed a GST number. I said,
really?
You can't just send us an invoice on a Word document. It has to be the real deal.
True.
So I registered a company.
Yep.
I don't know. I was working on search engine stuff at the time, all the metadata.
Yeah.
So we thought,
Brilliant.
well, Meta Solutions at the time.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
And then we were Meta Solutions.
Meta Solutions. And you got your GST number and filed your invoices.
That's the one.
How good.
And then that was launched into being a business owner really without a plan, because at the time I was still thinking, when the right job opportunity comes along, that'll be the one.
Yeah.
I guess it just never came along.
Yeah. And so the picking up those clients, was that just referral type stuff that you just...
Absolutely. So word of mouth in Christchurch, probably for any town is key. So I came, like I'm not Christchurch born, raised. I didn't go to school here. So I came here with no network.
Oh, wow.
And I guess it's highlighting that. So what do you do when you're starting out? You don't really know anybody. I found myself in BNI.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
and I want to shout out to BNI.
Yeah,
it's a really
totally.
good starting point. It teaches you the habits of how to introduce your business to people, how to give and get referrals.
Yeah, totally.
And I was on my way.
I actually interviewed Miranda Napton from BNI, who's one of the directors for BNI, on the podcast. When I had On Page One Media, I was in BNI, and I really, it was one of the reasons we were successful was we were. One, you had to get up and present. I was working from home at the time, and then we got offices. You had to get up, present. You had to go and have breakfast, and you're meeting other people, and that was real key to that.
That's fantastic. I think that's a great training ground. Even if you're already been in business for years and years, it teaches some really good discipline and habits. What I learned there, and there was a saying that I learned from somebody in that first BNI stage of business, was your network is your net worth.
Nice.
And I had to really process that. It's like essentially who do you know that can open up opportunities for you?
Yeah, very cool.
Which leans into then such a key in business. At least I think for me, and part of my marketing strategy was a couple of things. Be likable.
Yep. Nice.
Kind.
Yeah, very cool.
And care.
Yeah. And look, you have all that about you. Where did that come from, though? Was that something that you just decided to be, or was that something you already were being naturally?
That's a good question. I'd say that there's a natural part of it.
Yeah.
However, where I'd come from, I'm not going to name where I'd come from. Some people out there will know.
Yep.
I come from a larger corporate, and I'd seen businesses screwed into contracts.
Oh yeah.
And website development projects they should never have been.
Yep.
And there was a pivotal moment for me when I sat down with a woman who was the owner of a business that sold a very expensive website for the early 2000s, 1999 kind of thing. And she was on her sofa in tears, going, "How did this happen?"
Ouch.
And I was going like, well, did you get a proposal? Were they clear about the pricing? Were they clear about variations? No, it was loose. It was loose. It was the Wild West back then. And I sort of locked in from that experience because it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my doing. Hey, it's not a good look to do this to somebody.
No, and also like the ramifications of that. But the coolest part about that is you realise, hey, I'm not going to be like that.
Yeah.
I remember working in the corporate world, and I was like, this was interesting for me. I went to the World Internet Summit. I think it was 2006. Met a guy called Brett McFall, and he told me, "Hey Scott, if you want to be successful, give away just what you know for free." And it was a really strange thing for me because I thought, well, that's dumb. Because I came from the corporate world where you held on to everything. That was you didn't give anyone anything because they would steal it and claim it their own. Then you got into the business world and you started caring about people and you go, well, actually, that's not fair. Let me help you. I'm going to give you some stuff. And it's probably a lot like how you are and how you treat people. So question is though, so you've got a couple of clients, you've got a freelance, you're going to B&I. When did you start to realize, hey, I could make a business out of this?
Oh, I think I trucked along for the first 3 years alone.
Yep.
And that was busy.
Yeah.
And the cycle was very typical for the solopreneur. You're in your sales cycle, so you're out there having your coffees and lunches, and you're doing your hustle, and then you land a piece of work. And now you've got to deliver that piece of work. You come up for air, you've delivered it. And for me, that might be a couple of months of work.
Yeah, true.
And you're, I haven't got any more work to do. And so
it's the seesaw, right?
It was. It's challenging, and I want to acknowledge that for anyone, even now in business, that's in that very, very small scale, that sales delivery cycle. It's hard. But what you need to be able to do is put in, again, blocking your time so that you're spreading that through your working week.
Nice.
And this is where, again, B&I brings that discipline.
Yeah.
Where you go, this is my networking time. This is when I'm out doing sales. And we work in a space where we're doing, often quite technical.
Yep.
So oftentimes, you can sometimes get a job and it's just a number, but you often really need to go and do some research.
Yeah.
You need to do some scoping.
Yep.
That can be a day or two of work.
Yeah, totally.
So building that into my work week, then it just so happened fortuitously that Ben Ford, who's still with me today,
Yeah, nice.
came along and said, "Hey, do you need someone to help? I'm looking for work." And we'd worked together.
Yep.
He's a gun designer.
Yep.
Excellent. And I said, "Yeah, let's do this." And he came on board with the intention at the time. We were lean.
Yep.
It wasn't about the money, but it was about flexibility, freedom, and doing the best work of our lives.
How good.
And he bought into it, and he's still with us today as the general manager
That's
of Meta
awesome.
Digital.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so thank you, Ben.
Yeah, it's so good to find people like that, right?
Yeah.
I've got a couple in my business as well, and it's really, really good, refreshing to find people that want to come along that journey. And you give them the roadmap and you give them the vision, but then they take and run with it, right?
Absolutely.
That's essentially what Ben's done there as well. Okay, so there's two of you, and now you started to think, hey, I've got a business here.
That was when it looked like a business to me. I was an employer now.
Yeah, and so what sort of work were you starting to do? Like, were you starting to do like bigger web projects? Because that have been around, what, 2000 and...
It was early, like 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
It's blurry because of those whole
Web
starting as a freelancer.
Web was brand new back then, eh? Like, I remember, like, it was just... Yeah.
Well, I had my first web design job in late 96.
Okay, yep. Oh, wow.
Working for Mike Badley at Wired.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So he's
wow.
the OG.
Yeah,
He really is. the
Yeah,
OG.
yeah, true.
Yeah. So a big shout out to him. Really good guy. But yeah, it was fairly primitive. We were still building with HTML. Occasionally you would use an Access database and build ASP, active server pages, and you could build, but there was no CMS. There was no WordPress, no Squarespace, none of this stuff existed.
Yeah.
So you really had to build everything. But you look at the sites back then and they were very simple, very basic, and even marketing was very, very basic. Coming into that time, in the early 2000s, Google started making a real breakthrough.
Yeah.
And toppled the Alta Vistas and the Yahoos,
Yeah,
which
totally.
were more search directories.
Yep.
So they still existed, and we still had that process of adding sites to a directory. But Google had this new thing. You could put keywords, metadata,
Yeah, totally.
page titles, and all these things.
Yeah.
Really well formatted content with a heading 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
and a meaningful content, use of bold and italics.
Yeah.
All this mattered and could influence if you got found in this magical search algorithm.
So good.
The crazy thing is, it's still the same today.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. And like it's still as valuable to be there.
Yeah.
You know, people say, oh, you know, search engine's changing. Yes, it is changing, but it's still valuable to be there, you know, and I challenge anyone who says it's not. How cool is that? So Google really started to own that whole space, right? Because there were definitely other competitors in that space, and they really started to own it, right? They were doing some really cool things. I remember back in the day, making some money off AdSense.
Yes.
So building websites with their ads on them.
Yep.
That was pretty crazy. Obviously, they had Google ads. That was a crazy time too, though, because you know they started to make changes to their algorithms around that. I remember we were advertising 5 cents a click for client keywords and all the keywords. Then overnight, they Google slapped everyone and went to 50 cents a click, and everyone thought. Like today, you think, oh wow, that's cheap.
I know.
But back then, it wasn't, right? It was like overnight, banned a bunch of accounts. That made me realize whose sandpit it is as well. Like it's their sandpit, and you got to be careful what sandpit you're playing in, or at least know the rules of the sandpit you're playing in, right?
This is true. You know, we have the platforms, the big social media platforms, and essentially we don't pay to be there.
It's free, man.
You can boost content, absolutely, but we feel so entitled. But at the end of the day, we're in this space on their ticket.
Yeah, totally. I don't think people realize that too either.
Yeah.
Like it's not enough is said about it. Hey, so what are some of the things that you started to see working though, like back then with your clients? You know, obviously referral, you only get referrals if stuff's working. So what was working for you guys? Were you starting to get websites ranking? Are you starting to get people flowing in? Like,
I think, there's a number of factors. Yes. It's at the end of the day, yes, you need to deliver what you said you're going to deliver. So do what you said you're going to do for the price that you said you're going to do it for. That was key. And that made us different.
Yeah, true.
Which is wild. Then with Ben and I, we suddenly arrived at this realization that what it meant to be excellent and within our industry, the bar was very, very low.
Yeah.
And the care was very low. So simply by caring, simply by sitting down and eyeballing your clients and going, let's work through this, let's arrive at a solution and really deliver what they were wanting.
Yeah.
Bring your expertise, but at the end of the day, you are working for them.
Yeah, nice.
And we constantly reminded ourselves that we were in a service industry.
Perfect.
Which, again, for the tech industry was a slightly different way. It's probably more common now, but back then it was really differentiated.
Yeah.
That meant that when we were sitting with a marketing manager from a large organisation, and that marketing manager then moved to a new organisation,
totally.
they took us with them. And then they would speak to other and refer us to other marketing managers inside similar sized organisations. So within no time, little old Meta, which by now was probably about 3 people, we were getting to work with some fairly large brands in New Zealand.
How good.
Yeah.
Can you still remember them?
I can. Some of them are still with us.
How good.
So we were working with Girl Guiding New Zealand.
Yep.
And still are to this day. Back then we also had YHA New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
Really
a
thing anymore. Solid Energy. Back then,
primo.
So we had some really
good clients,
accounts.
Yeah. And look, it's interesting when you talk about those relationships. You know, taking the time. I always say to people, hey, invest time in a depth of relationship, not a width of your relationship. You know, too many people are trying to. You see it on LinkedIn. They're trying to grow a massive following on. But what about having connection with 100 of them? You know, going deeper into those connections, because when that marketing manager leaves, they have an opportunity to take you with them. And if you didn't care and didn't show you care, they wouldn't have, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Pretty cool way to grow the business.
It became our scalable and repeatable strategy, I guess, in business. Because let's be honest, back then, digital marketing wasn't really a thing.
No.
There was SEO, and so we had that figured out, and we ranked well for the common expected search phrases. I even did some experimentation at the time. I'd literally write a blog post with a long tail headline that no one would search for. It's like, how good is my morning coffee?
Yeah.
I posted that, checked an hour later, and there we were, page 1 in Google for that.
Yeah. We used to do some really cool stuff around YouTube when it first started.
Yeah.
And getting videos ranking.
Second biggest search engine.
Yeah, that was definitely our superpower, because we could get them ranking and then bounce articles in to the on page, and then put those links or embed the videos in as well, so you get the page ranking as well. There's definitely, I think it might have been a little bit easier back then. It's a lot more complicated now, and there's more competitors trying to with your clients. They're all people are trying to get into those same areas.
Well, it's interesting you talk about competitors, right? And because there seems to be, and you'll be in this, particularly being in the digital marketing space. And we like to refer customers your way. You're experts in that space. We're good with the design and build.
Yeah.
And we come back to you and your team to do the marketing, and it's essential. We need it. But there are many businesses that are jumping the gun and go, or maybe they've left their run too late, or something. And they're going, I need digital, I need marketing, I need clients now.
Yeah.
And they need to plan further ahead and have a longer, more like a 6-12 month strategy in place. And then I'll often talk to them and go, well, what can you do right now? It's like, do you have existing customers? You just simply phone them.
Yeah.
Or you could email them, but that's a little bit too passive.
Yep.
Emails get just buried. Even better, who are your rock star customers?
Yeah.
Or rock star like referrers?
Yeah.
Again, take them for lunch.
Yeah, go and
have
see
a
them.
coffee.
Yep.
Someone very wise told me when I was starting out, every week, which 3 people are you going to have coffee with this week?
How good. I remember you telling me about that years and years ago. I think it was when we were doing the leadership course with Dave Sewell.
Yes.
You said about your 3 coffees, and I thought, that's a great idea. I probably need to pick that up a bit. I probably only have 2.
They can't be the same people every week.
Yeah, well, there you go. I only have 1 then. So that's a good one, right? And that's pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
Just be intentional with it.
That's it.
Yep.
That's
so
it.
what did you start doing there? And you obviously started having coffee. What did you start learning? Did more business come your way?
Well, again, it's flexing that muscle and stretching yourself maybe into an area where you're not comfortable. Because yes, you can have coffee with your mates or your favorite client or your BNI friends. Do those things.
Yeah.
But they don't count as your 3.
Okay, so 3 people a week.
So 3, they're just you should just do that anyway.
Yeah.
But the 3 people was which 3 people really push yourself. You could literally phone somebody that you want to work with that you haven't yet, but you go, I would just like to have half an hour of your time. I'd love to have a coffee with you.
Awesome.
I'll pay for the coffee.
How good.
If you want to work in partnership with another organisation who has leads that could fulfil your business, particularly if you're like a subcontractor or something like that, who do you need to be talking to in terms of the main contract? Well, I'm going to try and find some key project managers or people in those kind of roles. So your target roles, you might ask for an invitation from BNI. Who do you know that could get me in a meeting from somebody here?
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's like reach out, really, really flex that muscle. It's uncomfortable. It really is. Like I own that, and it still is. But boy, does it work.
Yeah.
You find it. I'll look back and I'll look at my book, my pipeline, and I like sales are a little bit light. I don't have a lot of proposals to write. I reflect back on the last 4 to 9 weeks and go, I haven't been doing my 3 coffees consistently.
Yeah.
And so you then go, right, let's do it. And you get pretty quick results. Or you fail quickly and you realize that maybe you need to adjust your offering.
Yeah. So if you're a business owner listening to that, write that down. Like, what could you do? Like, if you need sales, and you want to fill your pipeline, write a list of people that you could go and have coffee with, and call them up, message them, even reach out, LinkedIn, whatever you got to do.
That's it.
And go and have coffee, because the other side of this, 24 years in business, years of experience doing it, it works, right?
That's right.
How good.
That's been my tool. I haven't invested in advertising, marketing particularly. That's been the tool that we've always gone back to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice work, man. Hey, so what else, when you look at the business and you look at some of the things that you've learned over the years, what are some of the other things? I really like what you talked about caring about people, and that does make a difference, right? What else have you learned about from being in business 24 years? Have you anything you just realised, hey, that didn't work? Is there any things there that come to you and go, oh man, I'll never do that again?
Not too bad. You know what? I think learning to be a little bit kinder to yourself.
Yep.
Here's actually a really big current one, and I'm seeing it a lot at the moment.
Yep.
There's such a lot of comparison happening. With the social media is really, really alive at the moment. It's really dynamic. It's good, but we're seeing a lot of incredibly successful stories that are out there, and seemingly overnight, success stories. And I myself am going, what are they doing differently? But having a little bit of compassion and going, well, I've done what I did, I'm going to own that.
Yeah.
And if I want to do something different, then I'll need to learn different skills and do things in a different way. And do I want those things? So if you really have goals and you really want to chase it, you go, what are the suite of different things that I can do? Because there's many, many levers we have as business leaders. And I think that's been one of the key insights for me is sometimes you go and do a thing and it does fail. You chase down a lead, you put a lot of work in, you're feeling good, you think you've got it, and then it just goes flat and you don't land it. And then you end up wondering, you turn it into, it goes beyond just a business thing to they didn't like me. And it becomes some sort of strange self-reflective thing. Yeah. And learning that, sometimes things just don't land.
Yeah.
There's other competitors out there. Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah.
Be comfortable with competition.
Yeah, totally.
Be comfortable and don't make it about you.
No.
I think that's been an ongoing lesson. Yeah. Though within that, there's also the element of really back yourself. And I think for me, one of the things I was thinking about in preparation for this was learning that, I have learned to trust my instinct.
Yeah.
If you're going out in business, you have to a certain extent, be somebody who you can trust your gut.
Yeah, totally.
You kind of have an idea within your own, what you do, your industry sector, you potentially know that inside out and you're good at it. But what you're not good at potentially is finding customers, building a team, leadership. So there's all these other skills that we don't tend to have, but we have to learn along the way. But what you need to do is lean into your instinct. Yeah. Lean into that skill of knowing what's right, what's wrong. Have good advice around you. One of the things I really learned was understanding my numbers, really knowing my numbers. Yeah. And you can look at that and go, because you've got leading indicators, current indicators, and lagging indicators. So the lagging indicator is your bank account.
Yeah, totally.
That's the end of it. Yeah, it is what it is. You can't do much about it. But your leading indicators, well, how many coffees are you having? Yeah. How many inquiries are these leading to? How many sales meetings am I having? How many proposals am I writing? Current indicators would be proposals that are being won, work that's being delivered. So you can work on all of these different metrics and know what those numbers need to be for your business.
Yeah, I like that. I personally love numbers as well. Was never like I didn't understand algebra or anything like that at school, but I was good at maths, and then I found myself, I trained myself to get good at financials. Yes. And I think that's a real skill to be in business and understand financials. Great. You only have to actually understand a few numbers and make sure that your accountant knows the rest of them. Yeah. But then you can have good conversations with them. Absolutely. I find it astounding that some businesses today are in trouble with their IRD. They owe money and they have an accounting person on their team. Where's the owner who's asleep at the wheel?
That's it. Yeah. We hear these stories all the time where someone went and maybe made a big purchase of an asset that they didn't really need, and had they really known their numbers themselves personally, they would have made a different decision. So it's know your own numbers. Yeah. Yes, you might have an accounts person. Speaking to sort of a small mid-sized business, if you are the leader of that business and you're the engineer and you're the person that has all the skills, you still need to be across your numbers. Totally. Somebody else can do the bookkeeping, that's fine. Yeah. But they need to be at least reporting back to you so you know. And know your indicators. Yeah. For me, I've always worked on this. I have a rule called the 90-day cycle. Okay. And so the 90-day cycle says that, that's 3 months. Whatever I do today, I'll see the fruit of in 3 months from now. Totally. Massive believer. Whatever I don't do, I will see the fruit of in 3 months from now. Yeah. So, when you're looking at your bank account and it's looking pretty sad and you're crying, you go, what was I not doing 3 months ago that I should have been doing? That's honestly one of the reasons we run a podcast. It's one of the reasons we put out so much content. It's one of the reasons we advertise is because we want to stay top of mind and get that funnel and get in front of people and add value to them as much as we can constantly. Yeah. Because if we stop that, and I've actually talked to a few people who run a podcast, stopped their marketing, and in 90 days, like the switch just was off. That's it. And that's how quickly you can, lose traction in marketing these days because of the competitors and because of your competitors. I like the 90-day cycle. It's a true phenomenon. I definitely believe in that. I think my coffee expense bill is going to go up. So Brad, if you see that on the expenses form, just tick that off and let Norm know it was working. What do you think? When you look at business, what's the gift that it's given you? Yeah, I am very grateful. So it's given me a lot of autonomy in life. I think fundamentally, though, the ability to chase a vision
Yep.
that I have in mind,
Mm.
it turns out that I didn't realize, but I'm quite a competitive person.
Yep.
It turns out that I'm quite goal orientated,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I love achieving these things. Goals do change, and that's okay as well.
Yeah. Totally.
They're allowed to change over time. So, at one point, my goal was to build this big team, and I associated that with growth.
Yeah.
Last year has been a brutal lesson for many
Yeah.
businesses and agencies as well, who have had to bring back their team size to meet where the current market is. And that was pretty tough, but it made me reassess that what is growth actually?
Yep.
And I'd say for me now, probably, as we're entering 24 years, I think it's about doing more with less, really utilizing our team, our skills, our resources, and ultimately be able to have that profitability within the business. Growth so much, it was about optics.
Yeah.
It was looking big because looking big looked good.
Yeah. And I get it. I get why people would do that, because, when you have an agency, the size of it is a flex.
Yeah.
Like if you're a real estate agent, you'd buy a car, that'd be your flex. Look at me. But I think with technology now, you don't actually need as many people. You just need better people.
That's it. Yeah. Well, that's
you need the A players plus technology, and you're away to the races, right?
Well, the technology thing is interesting. You mentioned that. So, back in the day, I learnt when I was studying design, I learnt multimedia, CD-ROM development.
Oh yeah, true.
And that was the breaking technology back in the day. Everyone was going to use CD-ROMs, and we even had CD-ROM business cards. Do you remember that?
Yep, I do. I had one. Yeah.
And then the World Wide Web really came through. And we didn't really need CD-ROM development, but that skill transitioned well. Now, the skills that I was doing there, no one had taught us, or we had no idea that the mobile phone in 2007.
2007 Apple iPhone.
That's right.
Changed the game.
And that's, so we then started having to build for these mobile devices.
Yeah.
And that was another sort of a revolution. We called it, what was it called? The responsive website design.
Yeah.
And that changed how we built things and coded things. You had to think about different devices that people might be on, not just it fitting on the device, but that is it friendly to use and accessible on the phone or on a desktop.
Yeah.
Now we're facing a whole new challenge with the advent of AI.
Yeah.
And again, it's an even bigger shift to how we do business, how we live. It's changing how Google search works.
Totally.
We're having to think, how do we now start to, we've learned how to influence the Google search algorithm, but now we have to how do we influence the AI algorithm?
Yeah, totally.
So there's all these ongoing shifts. So for me, it's been, you're always learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a career, and same for you with what you do. It's a career where you're dedicated to growth, dedicated to learning.
Yeah.
And a lot of these things, well, when we were studying, these things didn't exist.
No.
There was no idea that they would ever come about.
No. Well, look at half the jobs you probably have in your office, and I know that most of them that we have in here, those jobs weren't there 5-7 years ago, right?
No.
You didn't need them.
No.
Now you do. Well, just going back to the gift though, and I think it's really good to capture that gift, right? Because part of what I heard is you're a learner, and the gift a business gives you. I think a business, for me personally, is the personal development game. I reckon it's one of the best personal development games. It's a hard game to play, especially when you start adding team and you start adding people giving you money to make them more money and all that type of stuff. But I think what I heard there is from you as well is the vision. It gave you a vision to set some goals and chase some things that were important to you at the time. And I think business does give you that opportunity to because I think if you look at a goal, it's what you become to reach that goal is really the most important part, right?
Absolutely.
Because if I want a 30-person team, well, how do I get there? Well, I've got to grow some other leaders, because I can't be the person looking at. So I've got to develop my skills to grow other people. And I think that's setting that goal for 30 people, probably what you did in the day, to have 30, 40, 50 people, and made you become someone else to reach that, which is, that's what I think is one of the coolest parts, right? Like you have to become someone else, someone new, to grow yourself so you can grow your business.
That's really true. Really true. And that's a constant thing. You're learning new skills.
Yeah, and that's the thing, the constant learning, right?
And it's constant.
Yeah.
It's unrelenting.
I find it, I don't know about
But
you,
it's exciting.
Yeah, but I find it really frustrating when and I'm not bagging young people because we've got a bunch of really cool young people that work for us, but and the reason they work for us because they get through the interview process, and you can pick the smart ones, but you get people coming in for an interview, and I'm like, what are you doing to train? Oh, nothing. Nothing at the moment. I've done a few of the blueprints, and I've done a few of the Google, and I'm like, no. Like, what are you doing? Like, there's a whole thing out there called YouTube. There's a thing called Udemy. You can upskill yourself for $10 and absolutely be world class in 2 weeks.
That's right.
On one part of digital marketing, And I'm like, they come in, they go, oh no, not doing anything, and I'm like, man. And I know Liv Brand always says initiative is up for grabs, and like seriously, initiative is up for grabs. As a business owner, I'm constantly training. I'm constantly learning to be better. But I think if you don't, you can't expect your team to. But maybe that's a bit of a rant on my behalf. But I find it incredibly, like, you're coming to get a job in digital marketing, and you've done a couple of courses on Google.
I like that.
I
like it.
Like, bring the heat if you're coming to an interview. Like, you've done this.
Well, I think that's something that we could potentially share, even going back to where you're. I occasionally speak in the tertiary sector with students, and I think you've hit on something really good. Is that they might be studying for that point in time, but the study, they see an end point. When I finish studying, I go to work.
Yeah. No, man.
But the truth is, I think you've nailed something here.
Today,
is that the learning is always for everything.
It has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be, and I think you have to be curious about where you are, and where you want to be, and looking at, okay, well, what's next? Where's it going? How do I add value to an employer? If someone knocked on my door tomorrow and said, hey, Scott, I've built these custom ChatGPTs, blah, 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 for this, and this, and here's how it works, and here's how it could make you money, what am I going to say? Versus someone who turns up and goes, oh, yeah, not really. This is funny. We had some people come for an interview.
Yes.
One was for a job doing Google Ads. And I said, so what's your experience? She goes, oh, I don't really have any, but I sat next to the person who does it at the agency she was at. I was like, oh,
is that right? That's it.
That's it.
Right.
And I was like, okay. And another one said the assistant was reading a book on it. And I was like, what? And,
So somehow through secondhand osmosis or something, you're going to pick this up.
So do yourself a favor. If you're listening to this podcast and you're a young person, or if you know a young person, just share this part of the podcast because, at the end of the day, you want people that are going to be proactive,
Absolutely.
And really looking to grow.
Well, I want to come back to this. I'll tell you what, we have a rock star dev on our team.
Yep.
Amazing. And we have a lot of amazing stuff.
Yeah.
But this one particular one didn't go through your usual tertiary, doesn't have a degree.
Yep.
But he was self-taught, and he came into the office for his interview, and he actually showed us what he's been building, showed us his tests, his experiments, and then other things. And a lot of them were partially completed or on their way. But what we could see was like, this guy is always tinkering, always learning, always developing. He's one of our rock star devs. So on paper, unqualified. However, at home, in his home time, in the weekends, he is always tinkering, always experimenting and bringing back new ideas and
in
new
his
thinking.
own time.
In his own time. He loves it. And he's just, all he wants now is just give me more rope.
Yeah.
And occasionally it's like, hey, I want a subscription to a particular service. And he's really, really pivoted quickly into the AI space and using AI in terms of coding and development. And a lot of what we do, in particularly where it's like quite, I guess, it's complex, and there needs to be high security layers to some of the stuff that we work with, particularly in the health and government sector. So he's been developing new tools and workflows that are so quick, but lean into that security piece on entirely new frameworks.
How good. I love that. I love it when someone, they want it, they have the capacity, or they want it, they get it, and they have the capacity to do it. How good is that when they come along?
That's it.
Hey, so let's talk about technology then. Where do you see, because you've gone from the forefront of technology, and look, I remember the iPhone changing the game. 2007, then the App Store got built, and then Facebook ads and all this. I remember it. Where do you see technology now? And let's talk to business owners, because I think business owners are so busy. And I know this because we're business owners. We're so busy with everything that's going on. I think there's becoming a point of overwhelm, even more so, because people were just handling the internet, and now there's this thing called AI. How are they going to handle it, and what's some of the advice you'd give to business owners on it?
Gosh. Now, first up, a disclaimer: I'm not an AI expert here. So
No, none of us are. Like anyone who says they're an AI expert, it's probably like it's too early.
That's it.
There's probably 2 or 3 people in the
But
world.
it is a revolutionary tool, and it is going to change how we do things in terms of what we do in terms of efficiencies. But I think if you're a business owner, where AI can really help at the most simplistic of levels is anyone. It doesn't matter if you're a plumber, if you're an electrician or whatever, even in the trades. Like, okay, just try it out and persist. So first thing is like ChatGPT. It's very accessible. We've heard of it. There's other ones out there, but it's one of the most well-known. People give it a couple of goes, and it comes back with quite some generic stuff. It's because the GPT hasn't learned about you, your business, what drives you, your customers. So you need to give it time. You need to train it, and this is something that people, I think, overlook.
Yeah, totally.
With AI, AI is a hyper intelligent resource. It's been loaded up with all of the libraries of all of the information, everything ever written by humans.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have context about you, your business, your values, your goals, your customers. So you need to teach it that.
Yeah.
Now, once you've got that sort of, and you've started teaching, you can then start to ask it, almost like a business coach. Not that I want to, business coaches are still cool, by the way.
Some are.
But, we use it, like, in terms of strategy.
Yeah.
Like,
totally.
how can we present this package in a better light so that it works for this particular customer in this particular niche, and give me some language that, and how would we deliver that? So using it strategically as a tool, and then not just a copy and paste, it's more, how do I make business decisions?
Yeah.
We try all sorts of things, as well as building automation.
Yeah.
I just as a business owner to another business owner, I would start using it as a tool, like, understand my business, and then given what you know about my business and what you know about the industry, so you got to feed it really good information. What do you know about other electricians in Christchurch? Could you look this up?
Yeah.
Tell me what services I need to be adding or delivering to sort of add value to our customers. And it will come back with some ideas and recommendations.
Yeah.
It's like a great mate that's saying, try these things, do these things. You know what it did when I tried ChatGPT recently? It's like, we've noticed a bit of a lull in our sales. What do I need to do?
Coffees?
Get recommended coffees.
How good.
Networking.
That's brilliant.
Of your existing customers, what are you doing to reach out to them and reconnect with them?
Yeah.
And of your existing relationships, how about having coffees and lunches?
Yeah. So good. So good. And look, and one thing I'll add to that is when I was in the States recently and learning more about AI and how businesses, skilled businesses are really using it. They are really using it as that strategic partner. I heard a great, one of the guys I was talking to, massive business in the States, and he was just saying, AI is your thought partner to your thought leadership. And I really like that, like and I always say, I've said this for a long time, the human intelligence plus the AI intelligence creates the super intelligence. And I think where businesses and people of business owners maybe are missing out is they've given away their thought leadership to the AI. Okay, so they're just feeding it a little bit of information and without and Matt, he actually taught me this, and I'll share it with you here. So it was about giving the AI context. More context to the conversation. Good example of that is my wife said to me, "What do you think of this? I'm going to have this as a road sign. And what do you think of the words on it?" And I said, "Well, yeah, okay." But I said, "No." I said, "Where are you going to put it?" She goes, "Oh, it's going to be a road sign." I was like, "Oh, okay, well." And I said, "Where did you get this from?" She goes, "From ChatGPT." And I said, "Okay, cool. Did you give it context?" She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Did you tell the ChatGPT this sign will be going on the road?
What speed are people driving on there?"
Yeah, and giving it real context to okay, the colours that would be best. Give
the
it
size of the sign.
And so everything, if you give it, you'll get better information out. So context is really, really important, and you should spend time giving it more context. The more context you give it, the better. Then making sure that you assign it a role. So whether it's a strategic marketer, it's a job writing ad expert, it's a microbiologist, whatever it is, you've got to give it a role. Okay. And then the best thing for me was this piece of advice that Matt gave me is make sure you get it to ask you one question at a time, so it interviews you. So you give it the context of what you're trying to achieve, you give it the role, and when you give it a role, just remember, if you're given a role as XYZ salesperson or these salespeople, guess where it's going to pull the data from? The best salespeople in the world. Like it's going to pull. So you've given it that role, and you've given it the context, you've given it that. Then you get it to interview. Hey, based on this, ask me one question at a time, and you can say sometimes no more than 5 or no more than 7 or whatever. But it then starts to ask you questions. So what I used to get frustrated with was it would ask me all these questions, and I just get overwhelmed. But if you ask it to ask you one question at a time, then it'll start to interview you.
Okay.
And based on your answers, so you're using its thought partnership with your thought leadership because you're actually being involved in the strategic part of the conversation. And then at the end of that, you give it the task. Okay, I want you to create me this, and this, and put it in this table, blah, 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 blah. So the power of that, I just thought, man, when we started explaining that whole thought leadership part to me, I really started to see how my relationship with AI will change, and it has. I came back from the States and I'm completely changing the way I would do stuff. And I think every business owner, don't just write emails with it. That's use it as your strategic partner.
Yes.
Do what Norm just said about, hey, go and research other, put in your context, then tell it, hey, interview me about my competitors.
Yeah.
Ask me 10 questions, one question at a time about my competitors.
I love that.
And what I feel about them, and all that. Have some conversation and some data.
This is a really good takeaway, and I think for a business owner or a marketer or anyone of any scale, this is real gold here.
I think the danger with AI is we put our head in the sand and we don't do anything with it. I think I also believe there's another part to this where the human intelligence will still strike because people want to come and have a coffee.
Well, it's interesting. So yes, these tools exist, but you and I are closer to the technology, and so a lot of customers are still going to come to us to. They don't mind if we use AI tools.
No.
We're closer to that, and they don't want to learn these things.
Yeah.
So this has always been the case.
I was in a meeting with 60 business owners the other day doing a presentation. A bunch of them said they used AI. All of them just about come up to me afterwards and said it was an amazing presentation, and we don't have a clue, but we've used it once.
Yeah.
And that's the reality. That is just the reality. When you're in the digital space, we're in it. So sometimes we're in it too much, so you can get caught up that everyone's using it. Well, everyone's heard of it, not everyone's using it.
That's it. And I think we also come back to the human experience of why we do business together. And it's like, it comes back to that value that's like genuinely care. Genuinely care about your clients, their business. I have a story on that one. This was a long time ago, but I was working with an electrician.
Yep.
He has a one-man band. I think he'd been in business for about 3 years and he hadn't had a holiday or a break.
Oh, wow.
He was married, had a small family on the way. And he was saying, like, this is basic stuff. He just needed a website that could get him, if he could get 3 to 5 new customers a week, that would afford him to be able to bring on his first employee, which would then allow him at some point in the near future to have a holiday. So you know what our mission came? It wasn't getting him 5 new leads. It wasn't about ranking in Google. It wasn't about that. Let's get this guy his holiday.
Get him on holiday.
And we really cared. It really gave us a sense of purpose, a sense of mission. That's one of the best feel-good moments I've had in business.
So good.
It was really, that meant more to me probably than the work we did with New Zealand Rugby on the All Blacks.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're on a mission. You want to help the person, right?
Yeah.
I know from our perspective, that's who we do business with. We love doing businesses with mums and dads who are the backbone of this country, and we want to help them be successful. We were a lot of franchises, and we know the franchise people in all these different areas, and we really want to help them. And that's the coolest part. Did he get a holiday?
He did.
Brilliant.
He did. And AI is not going to change this.
No.
So here's the whole thing.
Well, they know it's not going to change how much you care.
No. And recent conversations that we've had around remembering that we're in the service industry.
Yeah, I like that.
And that's, again, one of those values that the day that our customers can figure out how to do this for themselves, they don't need us.
Yeah.
However, they've got their own businesses to run.
Totally.
They've got their own things to get on with. And so long as we can remember that we are here to serve them and look after them and care, they continue to come back. And you continue to grow a business. So yes, there's changing technology. It's always going to be the case. there's new ways and new efficiencies, but fundamentally, I think humans will always do business with other humans
Yeah.
who care.
Yeah. And that's why, I was speaking at university and I told a bunch of people wanted me to come in and talk about AI. And I said, no, the one tip I gave that I recommend everyone said, yeah, tell me. I was like, cool, go to Toastmasters. And everyone's like, what? What's Toastmasters? And I was like, seriously, you guys need to learn how to communicate with people face to face, one to one, one to many, whatever it is, because the world is speeding up. But I tell you what, the world will slow down when you're having conversations with people too, right? Like, and build that depth of connection, not width of connection. And there's too many people just hiding behind computers and thinking that's the way to do it.
Well, and looking for that easy one, like we talked about that earlier. Client who was like, well, if I just send emails, it's like, no, talk to people.
Go and talk to people. Yeah. That's and look, it's scary maybe for some people to do that, but you've got to go and do it, right? What let's I want to ask you some business truths. What do you know about business? 'Cause you've been in business 24 years. I had a podcast on this the other day about some business truths or marketing truths or website truths. What do you know to be true?
Oh, okay. Can you lead me here? Sorry, I just need what's business truth.
Well, like you look at for me, I know consistency of message plus frequency become relevant. I know there's a truth. I know if you have a consistent message and you're frequently getting in front of the clients that can and want to do business with you, you become more relevant. The more relevant you are, the more sales you will make eventually, because at the time you become relevant, you are now on the shopping list. So that's a business truth for me. So if anyone says, hey, marketing doesn't work, I will show you again and again and again a business truth, a proof that does. I'll just stack up client after client after client. This person didn't have a consistent message. We gave them a consistent message. We put them frequently in front of their target audience, and then they become relevant and they make more sales. Yeah. So hand on heart, I know marketing works. Right? Yeah. So I agree. I agree. What's a business truth that like you talked about a good example for you is your numbers. Yeah. You know that 3 coffees a week.
Yes. That's it.
It's a business truth.
So for me, and I guess it scales as well. If you have a team of salespeople, I know that there are certain things that when you're starting out, learn communication, learn building relationship, learn about building trust, and you can do that by the easiest thing is joining Toastmasters, joining BNI, getting into some sort of there's a few of them, but network marketing program of some sort where you're meeting other like-minded people, all out to basically become better and supporting one another. And I think the other truth is like, for in the sales sense at least, when it comes to sale, or actually I'll go back to the coffee. Let me back up a bit. When you're having your coffee, your outcome is not to have a sale.
No. What is it?
The outcome is to get to know that person.
Yeah, true.
What's happening in their life.
Yeah.
What are their concerns? What's going well? Get to know them.
Yeah.
And don't make it about you.
Yeah. Be interested, not trying to be interesting.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the sales will fall out of that.
Yeah.
Sales do just naturally fall into your lap if you approach business in that way. Totally. Because people in business like to do business with other kind, caring people who they perceive care about them.
Yeah. Yeah. Who has their interests at heart,
That's right?
Rather than just trying to snake a sale.
That is a truth.
Yeah.
Because if you're out there just to get the quick, dirty sale, it sort of shows through.
Yeah. They're out there though.
Yes.
Careful of those people.
Yes. And you can just be clued up into the conversations again. And another truth, look for always demand transparency.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
Well, you and I have been around long enough. There's plenty of customers that have come across our paths that have asked for more information or more insights into what their current business partner is doing for them.
Yep.
And there's no transparency.
Yeah.
There's no communication, and they're just in the dark.
Yeah.
And what I'll always say is like, demand it.
Yeah.
If you're paying for a service, just simply ask the question, what's being done?
Yeah.
The classic old SEO thing, it's like we're paying, X number of thousand a month for SEO. Great. What does that look like?
Man, we saw one this week, right? So we've had this client for 6 months. We're doing their marketing and we need some other work done by their web company. And we had built their Google business page when we started with them. Yep. We found out because we started looking at their contract because they asked us to look at it. They'd been getting charged for Google Business SEO work for 3 years. And they hadn't even set up the Google Business profile.
Yep.
And it's like, man, that is just wrong.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's heaps of it going on.
And sadly, because it's in that tech space, a lot of people that aren't maybe tech savvy just trust, blindly trust.
I say in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. And sadly, that happens a lot in this industry, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about like working with you guys too. You're very transparent. It's got to be transparent. The other one I really dislike in the ad space is when people put they create their own account, or they don't let the business owner create their own account for Google Ads or Facebook or Meta. They create the account, so they seem to think they own their account. Then they use their own credit card instead of the customer's credit card.
Yep.
Bill them for $2,000, but the business owner doesn't get to see how much is going on the ads.
No.
That to me is not transparent. It's not a way it should
It's
be
not
done.
the right way to do it. No, it needs to be their account.
Should be their
and you come
account,
in and
their
manage
credit
it.
card. You manage it.
Yeah, we don't play in that space.
No.
But we partner with people like you that do. But yeah, I like that. I think it works.
I demand transparency. I think that is a great business truth.
Yeah.
To stand by. Another one I want to give you is invest in yourself. That's a really cool one for you.
Yeah.
Because I know like we've known each other over the years, and we actually ended up on a same course together.
Yes.
Which was a leadership course, right?
Yeah.
And we were at the time where we needed to learn more about leadership.
Or developing leaders within our teams.
Within our teams, right?
Yeah.
So that's a truth, and I think for any business owner, that's something that should be at the high part of their list.
Absolutely.
What's another truth? You got any like website truths that you think that people should know about? What are some of the fish hooks you see in websites and stuff these days? A website's like I hear some people spending like 6 figures on a website.
Yeah.
And I get it at some level, but then I don't get it at some other levels. So, where's the web industry at?
Okay, I'm gonna contradict myself for a second here.
Please do.
And one of the things is let's speak to a startup or a founder.
Yeah, nice.
Or a small business owner.
Yep.
And they're coming to us and they want to invest a substantial amount in a website.
Yeah.
I can often look them in the eye and say, look, you don't need a website yet.
Yep.
You don't need us yet.
Yeah, what do they need?
They need marketing.
Yeah.
They need digital marketing. And so they introduce them to our good friends, digital influence, and say, look, you need to start with a good Facebook campaign.
Yeah.
What other things? Like maybe using LinkedIn more effectively. It depends on their industry sector.
Yeah, totally.
You probably need to run some AdWord campaigns. And yes, you can have a small landing page, but that landing page could even just be your Google business page.
Yep.
These things alone, there are things that exist that people can do for themselves, often for free, that'll get them on their way quicker, sooner than then they need a website. But you will reach a point in time where you scale enough where you need to build trust and confidence. And that's where your website does come in.
Yeah.
And that speaks then in terms of a design aesthetic to its language, to your audiences to help grow that. But oftentimes people are saying they're going straight to the website and forgetting all the other things that they could do.
It's pretty powerful because a lot of people would just take their money and build a website, right? So, but you've been around long enough to know. And interesting enough, we had a new client start with us probably the last month. They came to a strategy session with me 3 years ago, and I said, "Look, you're not ready for this. Hey, you need to go away, do this, and this." They went away, did it, have become pretty successful, and now are invested a lot more money in getting us to help them with their marketing. But I think it's being brave enough, and I think that's when you get to the certain age of a business, you get brave enough to say, "Hey, not for you right now. Here's what you need. You actually need an order form, and go talk to 10 people to see if you've actually got something."
Absolutely,
that's
I agree with you.
Really good advice. But what happens when someone's they've got they've got a few more runs on the board?
Yeah.
Because there's lots of businesses out there, and I see it all the time. They've been around a while, but they've got this website that looks like it's been built in the 90s. And they've spent nothing on it. They don't know what to do about it, and it's become one of those things. Well, we had it. It doesn't do anything, so why invest the money? What do you say to those people? Because there's missed opportunities here.
Absolutely, and I do agree. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm in the business of building websites, so we love building websites, and we sell them all day long.
Yeah.
Often those people, so again, business truth, website truth. Start with thinking about your content, your audiences, your messaging, what is important to them, and you might need to be guided. You might need some marketing guidance around that to really distill that if it's not your area of really distilling that. Because before you jump straight to designing this amazing website experience, you need to have really good content.
Yeah.
And it needs to resonate with your audiences. It's really key. It's like dating.
Totally.
you need to set yourself up in the best light so that those people that's meaningful, it relates to them, and then we can put it into a beautiful user experience that then wraps around that trust and confidence layer to deliver that message.
Yeah. I think that's a good message too. Like I always, and I learned this a long time ago, but it's not, a guy framed it for me. This is our business coach framed it really nicely last year. He said, Scott, sometimes you can't see this, you can't see the picture when you're standing inside the frame, and a lot of that comes down to marketing copy. For a lot of business owners, they don't see the value of what they really have.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes it's just that one conversation that you have with someone who's a little bit more skilled when it comes to that narrative or understanding marketing, you can then crystallize and create something. Because it's generally you interview people and they've got some really smarts inside them.
Yeah.
They know, but they just haven't been able to capture that because they're standing inside their picture frame, right? And I think so. Okay, I've got my message. I've got a few things. What do I need next?
Yeah. Okay. We then tend to start for our process. It's starting at looking at what are the numbers again. You know, what are the search volumes? What do the audiences care about? So there is a useful tool that we use SEO for. In this case, it's not so much SEO, but looking at that human factor.
Okay.
What's currently being searched for?
Yeah.
So that tells us this is what's top of mind for your audiences within the sphere of what you do. It tells us what's important to them.
Yeah.
We can discard then in terms of messaging and structure and design elements what's sort of lower in the hierarchy, and then there's high stuff, and that informs the design.
Yeah, nice.
So we use SEO to inform design.
Perfect. Talk to me more about that. So you're using those what people are actually searching for, and then molding that into the design. How do you do that?
That's right. So it might be trying to come up with let's say it's car leasing, and so we go and search around all of that. We come up with 200 different search long tails that are around leasing cars, and we find that, well, actually people are really, really wanting ute leasing.
Nice.
Seems to be the top thing. It's sitting up really, really high there. So that then tells us that, well, we need to create some sort of strong messaging design element that might have the picture of the ute, the guy in front of it, and it's like, I'm so stoked, I got to lease my ute.
Nice.
And it's helped my business. So you come up with some messaging thing around the search trend. So it really, again, what we're doing is it's resonating with those audiences from a design language as well as from a content perspective.
So good. We were working with a client and they were doing car financing, and we started noticing that people were asking on their ads, do you do ute financing?
Yeah.
So we created a whole new campaign around, same ute, just different repayments, and help them getting refinancing. Because what we realized after COVID, people got their wages cut by 80%, but a lot of them had their utes financed at 18, 19%. So the company that we were working with, they could go in and get refinance them at 12. So they look like absolute hero. The person still got to keep their ute. But that was from reading the ad comments. People were starting to ask, hey, do you do ute financing? You know, active listening. So you know, there's like, that's, you know, another great example when you look at, you know, building in the SEO or building in your ad campaign based off what people are searching for or telling you.
That's it. Yeah. So we tend to follow that. So, you know, that the audiences drive what we design. The audience's hopes, dreams, and desires drive the messaging.
Nice.
The website, again, because for your business to be relevant to your audiences.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, it's not static.
No.
So that might be fine for 6 months.
Yeah.
3 months. It depends on your business and the cycles. For some people it's 12. But at some point we need to go back and we need to review that and go, what's changed? Hey, look, there's been a shift. And this is particularly so with seasonal businesses like tourism and stuff. Things change and the audience's search habits change. And so we need to adjust potentially the homepage messaging, promo panels, and some of the key landing pages to suit those trends.
So good.
It is continuous, I guess, integration really.
And the thing is, if you're not on top of that, like you have to be on top of that as a business, as owning your business.
Yes.
But there's no way a client can be on top of that.
No.
I reckon, you know, when I put up on the screen, sometimes when I'm doing presentations, and there's like 4,000 or 5,000 bits of technology on the screen. And I ask people what they see, and they see, you know, confusion. Okay. You know, and I said, oh, well, sometimes I see job security, you know, because it's so mind blowing. Like there's so much, You know, like you try and learn the back end of Google sometimes. It's absolute just a nightmare. And we're in technology. You know,
That's
we
it.
understand it.
That's it.
All right, dude. I'm gonna put you on the spot. You are starting a business.
Yes.
Okay. You can't use any of your 24 years experience. Well, no, you can.
Okay.
Talk to the person. What are the 5 things that you'd do if you were starting a business today?
Yeah. 5 things.
Yeah.
Okay. Join BNI.
Nice.
It's a great way to start, build confidence.
Yep.
Learn the habit of pitching your business
Mm.
and being very clear about what you're looking for
Mm.
in terms of a good referral.
Yeah.
And then make sure that you're doing the one-on-ones.
I was just going to put one-on-ones.
Yeah, the one-on-ones are where you start to build that habit of listening to
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Really learning about
Listening to understand, not listening to reply.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
And
that.
go and be a student. Like,
That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
So
We're starting out in business, so we're going to need some marketing.
Mm.
And I would say, what can you do for yourself from day one
Yeah.
to get started? So stand up, build your Facebook page,
Mm.
build a business LinkedIn profile, and then your personal profile, because and over time you're going to have 2 brands, your business brand and your personal brand.
Yeah.
Start that from day one. Learn to use the platform. Depending obviously on your industry sector, but ideally it's like be there, read people's posts,
Yeah.
comment,
Yeah.
interact, engage, build a community.
Yeah.
And post yourself.
Yeah.
Share.
Totally.
And LinkedIn it's like Facebook for business.
Yeah.
And I think then invest also in, there is a place for digital marketing and doing Facebook ads and driving that to something that could, like a Facebook ad could drive them to a form or to a contact page or to a simple landing page. You don't need to overinvest at this stage.
No.
What you need is orders.
Orders, yeah.
And so what does it take to get those?
Yeah.
So how many am I up to now?
You're up to, well, you've done 1, 2, 3. So but now you need orders, right? So
Yeah.
what are you going to do to get orders?
So there's a few things. Here's something I did. I went and talked to my competitors.
Nice.
So one of the first groups of people that I went and had coffees with was the competitors in the industry already.
Did they know what you're up to?
Well, I introduced myself so that they did.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And so made myself
do you
known.
believe there are competitors? Because like you could, people could look at us and go, well, these 2 guys compete, but we don't. We don't build websites. We do SEO. You guys do some SEO, but I don't see us as competing.
No.
I don't actually see like our industry really competing. I know there's competitors, but I don't really see them as competitors.
Some of my dearest friends like yourself, other web agency owners, we have shared experiences and battle scars. So it's good to catch up and we look after each other.
Yeah, totally.
I think there's almost any industry sector, make yourself known to the competitors, because here's the thing, you're better to have them as competitor friends.
Yeah, enemies.
because they will send stuff your way where there's overflow or where something's not quite a good fit.
Yeah.
So how I pitched myself is, hey, I'm coming in, I'm new, I'm just a one-man band. If there's stuff that's not of interest to you or below you, I'll happily pick that up.
Yeah, cool.
And so building that really good relationship of trust from the get-go.
So good. And like anyone can do that, right? Like that's not if you're starting a business, you can definitely go do that and you'll get orders.
Yeah.
90 days, you'll have orders.
That's it.
What's number 5?
This is really important, is the customer is literally the hero in your story.
Totally.
Without customers, as soon as a customer learns to do what you offer, they don't need you anymore. So just always remember that. They're pretty important. They're pretty special. We're grateful. My weekly pay, my home, my car, my holidays, all comes because of our fantastic customers.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think I was talking to a guy the other day, and he was telling me, he has a bunch of IT people working for him, and he noticed that his IT people just saw these people on the other end of the computer screen not as customers. Yeah. They were a disturbance to their day, and he said, "Hey guys, these people are our clients. These are our customers." So he started naming the computer screens, and getting people to, "Hey, you're talking to Robert or you're talking to Mary." Because he noticed that they were being abrupt, they were being this, they were that, and they weren't noticing that the customers. I reckon, like if you're a business owner or you're thinking of starting a business, Norm's just giving you the blueprint. So join a BNI, Business Networking International. You can go, I think, 3 or 4 times for free. Don't quote me, say that Norm said that. But the key there is to go and learn how to pitch your ideas, go and learn about other businesses. Because what I loved about going to BNI is because I'm naturally curious, I wanted to go and see other people's businesses and find out, why do you do that? Why do you do that? Oh, how do you do the sales? How do you do present? Oh, you have a folder. Oh, okay. So do I need one of those folders? Oh, okay.
So good.
And like you start to work out, but also it allowed you to have better conversations with other people that you were meeting. Oh yeah, I've got a guy that I know in my group, or I've got a lady in my, all of a sudden if someone needs something, I could connect people. And I reckon that's a skill. That's a skill as a business owner. And like we were talking about this the other day, like, who do you know? And I'm blah, 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 blah. And we were like, you just know, you end up knowing more people because of it, right?
That's it.
Very, very cool. Then, hey, look, start your own marketing. Seriously, if you're going to start a business, get your Facebook page, get an Instagram, get LinkedIn, get TikTok, get all the social media, get your YouTube channels, get all of that set up. It's for free. If you're not using those platforms, well, you've seriously got a rock inside your head because it's free. And some of these platforms will actually give you organic reach for free. And at the start, you just have to be the person going in and commenting, liking, and engaging in the conversation. Invest in digital marketing. Definitely invest in digital marketing. Like, don't get sucked into getting on billboards or freaking radio, TV type stuff yet. Just get your money and get it as close as you can to your target market. People who can and want to buy from you. That's a real solid one. Order form. I love how you went and talk to competitors. I think that's a great idea. Hey, by the way, I'm just here. I'm a one-man band, but if you've got any overflow, flick it my way. And like you're going to get business.
We did.
Yeah. Totally, right? Like it's not, I also think talking to people is a good idea, right? Like I've met a few people that have spent a lot of money building business cards, signed written car, brochures, all this sort of stuff, no sales. Go and talk to 10 people. See if you've got a product. And then I put down before you even said it is care. And I think that's the superpower you have. You care. And I think, look, I think luckily enough, we've probably been given the gift by someone in our lives that we have customer service at the forefront and we do our best. But I think that is something, if you can just get good at customer service, and that may be you going and working part-time at a hospitality venue to go and learn from someone who's really good at hospitality. I learned from my nana who was really good at hospitality. She worked in pubs and bars and stuff. And I learned from her, and she was very social in her friendship group and stuff. And she taught us how to be, that was a gift that she gave us,
Yeah, hospo is a great training ground.
Great training ground for being that. So, man, this has been primo. Like, people are going to listen to that part. So here's the thing. You got anything else you want to share? I think you've nailed it, to be fair. Mate, I think, I really appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate the fact you've taken your time. I know the viewers are going to really get a lot of value out of this. Where can they get hold of you?
Well, metadigital.co.nz.
Nice.
Or just look me up on LinkedIn.
Yeah, look.
Norm McKenzie.
Yeah, look Norm up on LinkedIn, and just remember, he loves coffee. But instead of him buying you one, you buy him a coffee and get to know this man. He's got a wealth of knowledge inside his head, and he's ready to serve. Especially if you're looking to upgrade your website. Look, seriously, don't get stuck in the 2000s. It's 2025 now. There's some real cool things that Norm and his team can do. So reach out to him and make sure you make the effort. We'll put all the details on the show notes, etc. But here's what I need you to do. We've given you some gold. We've given you some tips. How about you share this podcast or this YouTube video? How about you share it with your networks? Maybe you've got a networking group that you're in. Maybe you're in a BNI. Why don't you share it with them? Because we've pumped out BNI. We've given them a bit of a shout out in this episode. How about you share it with the people? Because here's the thing. The more people we can, this can land in front of, the more people we can help. So that's all I need to do. Norm, thanks for your time. Appreciate it, my man. Until next time, remember, you got a job to do. You got to share this podcast, and also you got to go and have fun. You got to take action, and you've always got to go and celebrate your victories.